Welcome everyone to the losers bracket semifinals in Deathmatch World Cup 4. We're going to have Frost9 on the left side as a Chinese in red, and right side will also be the code in blue. It is going to be a Golden Swamp Chinese mirror in this one, which opens with camos, but then suddenly you're going to see the super tanky demo ships. I expect a lot of demo hits here, and we're going to have the code picking off one villager here from Frost to start the game with. That's going to be extremely important overall, but you already have the docks up for Frost. He went for some super early docks over here, also dropping stone walls to prevent his opponent from rushing down his vills. It is actually a best of 7 if I'm not mistaken. I'll have to double check, but losers bracket should be best of 7. Indeed, it's a best of 7. So we're gonna have, as I said, on the right side, Code is dropping a castle to protect his gold mines. We are, I think, like half a minute behind, so let's just add a bit of speed so we catch up. But for the time being, it looks like the ship numbers for Frost are slightly better. Camos from Code coming in to try and push his eco. Ecos are very, very close. And yeah, we should be live in a matter of seconds, I hope so. I just want to make sure we're not that much behind, because in DM that could matter. We're actually quite a bit behind here. When did they start this? Did they start earlier than scheduled? That would be awkward. Okay, now we're live. Apologies for that. There were some big booms, but that's something that you will see a lot of in this set anyways. So, I just want to make sure we're live, because if we fall behind quite a bit, as we have a big demo here to compensate for all the parts that we fast forwarded through. So the thing is that technically it was scheduled to start a couple of minutes ago, and it looks like they started a few minutes earlier than expected, resulting in the fact that we fell behind by a couple of minutes. But now we're live, so from this point on we will continue on. Alright, so let's talk about Chinese on this map. Chinese demo ships actually have more HP. They have 105 HP, which means they're a lot more devastating on this spawn than the demo ships are under normal circumstances for other civilizations. So in this Civ matchup, even more so than in the case of others, just sending in a group of 10 demos to the opponent's fleet like the way that Code is doing is much better than for other civilizations, and you see the end result. Half of the fleet for Frost goes down. The response will not miss out, though. There is already a couple of demos coming in here for Frost. Army numbers and eco numbers are actually pretty close. Over here, 54 galleons versus only 26, though, for Frost. So Frost is actually mixing in a lot more Chuko news. The Chuko news will allow him to just take down any rams that push the middle. So I guess the idea here for Frost could be that he adds Chuko news, and then just lets them die to demo ships, Suddenly, Code secures a twice as big army as that was available for Frost. So here are the keeps. It is only Frost that is crawling forward towards the middle, drops a market just now to potentially sell some food, because he's both low on gold and stone in this one, or wood. What are my expectations for this series? I would say Code 4-2. That's my take on this. I think Code, if Code plays his best, he's a far better player than Frost overall. Frost is a good player, but Code actually played in the grand finals of last tournament, so don't underestimate this guy. So, as things stand, ecos are pretty close, but Code is pop capped, Frost is not. Now, one thing that Frost does very, very frequently in DM is stonewall his flanks, and that's going to help prevent the raids from Code. And one thing to consider is that Frost is the one that is mining gold in the middle. I like how he's already committing a lot of vills to mining gold in the middle, and he's sort of not oversaturating his starting gold mines. The reason why that's so good is because even if he gets pushed off from the middle, he's gonna have a chance to fall back to this gold mine and hold out for some time before he needs to reclaim the middle. So I like that he is taking the middle gold until he can. Now here come the demos, and this could be a big one, an enormous one actually. Still more demos, and oh my goodness, that was an excellent one for Frost. But here comes the response from our red player, and look at how Frost is reacting. He's leaving 1 or 2 galleons there as a bait to block the demos. That's so well done there by Frost. Now it's 38 galleons versus 51, still better numbers for our red player, and now siege towers are, siege rams are also in. This is why Chukonus can help so much. They destroy those siege rams very easily. So I like the Chukonu idea when it comes to just dealing with these rams. Now traps being set up. We already have traps coming in from Code. He took down 1000, and the second one is going to go down in a moment. And now Code, very resilient with his push in here. He played a very good game against Brew on this map, and he played a not so convincing one. I feel like this is one of the more convincing games here from Code. So look at that, he's already bringing in a huge amount of keeps. And the problem for Frost is that he had 2 TCs, but he never had the towers over here. And now those towers will deny Frost from accessing all gold. He's at 47 army compared to 46. Left side, we're gonna have still a huge amount of gold for Frost to work with back at home. That's actually a life-saving thing right now for him, and this is why I said that I appreciate from him that he is taking the gold in the middle while he can. His opponent didn't contest him early on in the middle. Just take as much gold as you can and use your starting gold as sort of a backup or fallback option should you be pushed off from the middle. So, as things stand, the ship numbers are slightly favoring Code over here, but now there is siege rams coming in, and Code doesn't actually have anything that can deal with siege rams other than his own siege rams. Now he's adding Chukonus as well, and it looks like that trap is going to survive for the time being. Still, multiple towers are lit ablaze by Frost as some demos are trying to run the blockade. Cavaliers diving in here from Code trying to snipe the trap, and I think they might be able to succeed with the help of the traps from our blue player. Siege rams are being added here in larger quantities though for Frost, which will allow him to soak up a lot of arrow fire or galleon fire here, as so right now the middle is sort of a stalemate. Neither of the players have gold from the middle, and that's where the fact that Frost actually used the market quite heavily, and the fact that he still has a lot of gold back at home could matter. Although you have to add that in exchange, Code has 3000 gold in the bank and he still has a couple of tiles to work with. So I think a slight advantage will still be on the side of Frost if both players are running out of gold back at home. Because Frost was able to take a bit more gold from the middle than Code was able to. 2 relics for both players. The final relic could be easily picked up here by Code or Frost, and he should grab it. This is a situation where that extra relic could matter quite a bit, and you have the opportunity to pick it up. It's actually pretty close to your base. So, now the siege rams of the Code will be able to hold on against the siege ram push from the other side, but more traps are being set up by our red player. He's also trying to bring in some cannon galleons to take down that trap. It's a little sloppy from Code allowing that cannon galleon to snipe down that trap overall. And now, if you look at the ship numbers, we're talking about 46 versus 44, but there's quite a lot of siege rams over here that will soak up the arrow fire, but that doesn't matter when the demos pop out. The timing on this one from Frost was absolutely bonkers. Amazing timing from Frost, not gonna lie. That is just an absolutely beautiful one, and here comes another, and this is why Chinese are so good on this map when it comes to demos, because those demos are much sturdier, and that allows them to get closer to the galleons, and you have a higher probability of being able to deal significant damage to the opponent's fleet, just like we saw in this case. Still, neither of the players are able to mine gold in the middle, but the gold efficiency of the fights from Frost were far better than the ones from Code. As a negative though, Code is able to take both neutral stone mines. Frost is not contesting this one, which is quite sloppy. He could just send 2 Chukonu here to deny this one. And he needs that stone because that's going to be important for towers, that's going to be important for selling for gold, and you see that the main reason why the Code is able to drop so many towers and bank up still 2500 stone is because, as things stand, Frost is not contesting that stone mine. Still, Code trying to grow up some more towers, and now Code actually starts to secure a bit of a foothold for himself. A couple of villagers being sent here to mine gold, and this is where Frost starts to be on a timer. Because from this point on, if you don't deny this gold from the code, you will fall behind in gold count. So now it looks like Frost indeed goes for that stone. Look at that romantic mining operation. It feels so good. And now it looks like the first to react is Code, who makes a tower here. So actually this is very, very sloppy from Frost. He's probably focusing too much in the middle. Or well, not necessarily too much, but quite a bit in the middle. The Chukanus dive in and snipe the trap here. Nice move from our red player. But this still doesn't change the fact that Code is able to access gold with a huge amount of veils in the middle. And he still preserves some of his gold here as a backup. Whereas Frost, who still has quite a lot of gold back at home to work with, is just unable to access any kind of gold from the middle. And now it's Light Cav as well from Code. He's doing this so well, man. He knew exactly that his opponent will eventually get to that stone mine, and now those Light Cavs can proceed into the base of Frost. Frost is sort of capped at 180 population overall. Code is at 200. And one thing that I like about Code, although it's a little bit dangerous, is that he's chopping wood far away from his TC. So it's not like he's, you know, chopping these as well, but he's spreading out his lumberjacks to multiple wood lines. Some of them that could be important later on, if this game goes super long somehow, and wood control will be a thing. Now here comes Frost, and that's gonna be a lot of those demo ships. Code reacts nicely, but this could actually open a window for Frost to establish a wood hole in the middle. Code still at 2.6k stone. And the fact that he still has this stone mine just hurts even more so for Frost, because the main reason why Frost is unable to access the gold in the middle is because there is so many towers in here. And Frost is doing a great job taking them down. The problem is that his opponent is rebuilding them faster than he can actually take them down. Demos coming in from the left side for both players. We're talking about 18 demos versus 14. And slowly the towers are going down, and eventually our blue player will be running out of stone. Meanwhile, Frost is selling his stone for gold, so he starts to feel like he's on a timer. But the fact that you sell your stone will mean that you won't be able to secure a foothold with towers, and I feel like now Code just needs to defend. Which is easier said than done, but he's got so much firepower in the middle. Trebs, towers, and he's able to access some more stone, although now the Light Cap come in to deny that stone mine. Extremely important move there from Frost. Still 3,000 stone in the bank for our blue player. Demos now try to run blockade here, and they will just trade fairly evenly. Some more demos are getting closer, and they end up having a very underwhelming fight over here. Siege Rams now moving in to try and snipe the traps, though. Code also feels that he needs to take those traps down, because he's losing towers quite rapidly now, as the Siege Ram will fail in his task to take down the traps. And as things stand, those towers are slowly getting grinded down, especially with the help of the cannon galleons. Now a big blob of demo ships are closing in on the right side. Tower fire also helping quite a bit for both sides. And this could be a big one for both sides. Whoever gets some better demo hits, it looks like this is gonna be better for Code. He trades off his demos to the opponent's demos, but it's always better for the player that's defending the middle. So now you're gonna have multiple towers in here, and it looks like Frost will actually start mixing in some more Light Cav. His idea has to be that he needs to kill the repair villagers and he needs to kill these traps, because the problem for him is that he's trying his best to take those towers down, but there's just so many of them. And every second he delays, his opponent will get more and more gold from the middle. I feel like this might be a too strong foothold to break down now for Frost. He's still at 39 galleons, but he's up against 31 as well, and his opponent has an insane defensive position in the middle. Like, we're talking about the scale of 15 or so deeps, with Trebuchet support, Cannon Galleon support, and now Siege Rams moving in as well. And this is an important move here from Code. He will destroy these towers, which will allow him to loop around with demo ships to hit the back of the opponent's fleet. So that could be really helpful for Code to just secure a potential victory here. Now, the most of the rams will go down, so the towers stay up for the time being. And those demos will still need to get some good connections. Golden Swamp is the first game, that's correct. Basically, every single round there is different settings for Deathmatch World Cup. So in this one, the first game is that Chinese mirror on Golden Swamp. As things stand, it looks like the stone mine will be reclaimed here by Frost. Code is still on 2,000 stone and he has a bunch of towers in the middle. No matter how fast Frost is destroying these towers, Code is rebuilding them. And as I said, Frost is on a really serious timer now, especially with that trebuchet being lost to Rams. Such inefficiency is not something that he can afford anymore. So yeah, Code actually just did a better job securing the middle, and after that he just didn't let it slip out of his control. Now, light cav raid's coming in. There is one way that Frost could actually swing this battle back in his favor, and that is if he can actually bottleneck the ship production of his opponent in terms of wood. Because if Code doesn't have wood, he will still not be able to replenish his ships. The plan fails for Frost though at the place where you see that Code has 6,000 wood in the bank. Code lost quite a lot of wheels here, but it doesn't really matter. And you can tell that Frost wants to play for wood denial, but this is too late. Like, 6,000 wood will be enough for Code for so long, and it's still going to be easier to starve out Frost from gold than it is to starve out Code from wood. So, it's going to be quite annoying, I'm not gonna lie. In case this game goes very long, Code could lose quite a lot of eco, and eventually he will struggle to replenish his navy, but I just don't see that one being a thing. Frost's navy suspiciously disappeared here, which makes me rewind this one, and indeed, thanks to the magic of Capture Rage, the Potato Caster won't miss some big demo hits here, as that is probably the final nail in the coffin for our red player. He's still at 68 army, but most of that is light cavalry that has very limited capability of contesting this. And many players or many new viewers to Deathmatch ask why Bombard Towers are banned in Deathmatch tournaments. This is why. Imagine if this was Bombard Towers. How do you break through a line of like 23 Bombard Towers? You cannot. You cannot even get through these towers here. And now Code will just mix in some camels. He's got the goal to do so. And we'll clean this one up. He's at 168 population, but his opponent has no gold. So, like, how is Frost going to get back into this game? I have absolutely no idea. Like, his only shot is to starve out the blue player from wood. Now, he's actually making progress towards that, and it looks like this could be interesting for Frost. Because one thing that he doesn't need gold for is to level the starting base of his opponent with siege rams and cavalry. It's not going to be super easy to do, but think about it this way. Code is actually having a significant portion of his army and population on water, although he's got 45 Chukonus, so that could hold. Still, Siege Ram, Elite Skirm, Light Cav might actually be able to do this for Frost. If he's able to constantly pressure the opponent's eco, that might collapse. And if he's out of wood, suddenly Frost might have a chance of taking a reasonable water fight. Maybe even with demos, when his opponent is distracted, just get some demos in. So it's technically still possible for Frost to climb back into this one, but it's less than 5% chance right now, I would say. Normally the player with the middle should always win this game. In fact, Coach should start pushing up and start taking out those docks. So this is where the Chukonu arrive to defend. It's gonna be a relatively even trade until the camels show up to deal with the light cavalry. And it looks like the Chukonu are slowly focusing down the camels, but not at a fast enough rate. On the south, I kind of feel like we also have a cleanup here, and the fortified walls here were open, so that means that Frost's base will be flooded by camels and halberdiers here. He's trying to go for elite skirms, but this just feels like a desperation effort. Because gold units will always beat trash units, so no matter what Frost is bringing on the field, especially in the Mirror Civ matchup, Code is able to match that with something better. So it seems very unlikely right now for Frost to have any shot at this one, especially because he's just about to clean up the forces of Code inside his wood eco. Meanwhile, north, we do have the Chukonus cleaning up the push of Frost as well. It's a 50-50 map control when it comes to the outside. The problem is that the inside is 100% code and 0% Frost. And from this point on, as I said, I just feel like Frost is never gonna be able to do anything to stop the forces of his opponent. He's massing elite skirms, and truth being told, Code is out of wood right now. However, like worst case scenario for Code, he can still buy some wood with the gold he has, because the wood prices are so bottomed out that for, let's say, 100 gold, he can buy like 500 wood or so. And he's just piling up as much gold as he can. Even if he gets pushed off the middle, he's gonna have a reasonable stockpile of gold. And now the onagers are coming in. I think Code will also try to chop down these trees, knowing that his opponent soon will have wood control issues, especially if the two-pronged attack comes in from the left and the right at the same time. Elite skirms are in here now. Onager will get picked off by the Chukonu. And now the light cav will also come in. This could be a good fight for Frost, but while this is happening, he's losing the front of his base. And his base will just be breached. He's gonna have no chance whatsoever to reclaim the middle, ever. So the only way he somehow wins this is if he's able to outclass his opponent in an insanely long game. But I've never seen something like that work out. It almost worked for Taro in Deathmatch World Cup 3 in one of the sets. But I just don't think that you can win this game without gold here. Because the quality of the unit that Code is putting up on the field is a lot better. You see that he's got Onagers, he's got Siege Rams, he's got Cavalier, Chukonu as well in greater quantities. Whereas his opponent is struggling with numbers, he's struggling overall to establish a high quality army. He's got some skirms which are nice against the Chukonu, but I mean, skirms alone won't stop this, because now it's a Cavalier's pitch, and Code doesn't really have to be scared about this army at all, because eventually his Cavalier will just overrun the skirms. And if you look at the north, now it's once again just skirmishers, but there will be a couple of onagers here for Code to take those down, or just siege rams to steamroll the buildings. Some counterattacks from Frost, but very, very minor overall. Nice move over there from Frost though, sniping the traps, and it's a little bit sloppy from Code that he allows 3 traps to be taken down like that. Luckily for him, in his position, such an inefficiency is something that he can afford to take. And with that, Code emerges victorious. Very, very nicely secure in the middle, and then just not letting it slip out of his grasp. Ends up with 28 guard towers in this middle area. Breaking through that is just not possible at all. So with that, we will get back to the lobby and see what the next game is going to be, because that's going to be Frost's home map. So let's see. I hope it's not Golden Swamp again, because I'm gonna scream. Golden Swamp is a great map, but I have to say that it gets a little repetitive when you see it 100 times being played. So right now Code is in here. He's got Chinese selected, but that doesn't actually mean anything right now. Once you see the civ selected, it's gonna be there. So as things stand, the way that this is going to play out is that right now Frost selects a home map, gives 2 civs to Code to choose from, and Code is going to select one of those civs, and the other one will go to Frost. Oh, we're going to Golden Pit this time. Interesting. And someone was asking about Slavs previously in the stream. Here is your Slavs, my man. We will have a very interesting and quite unique setup here. Gold Rush with Slavs and Portuguese. It's a civ matchup that could go either way, to be honest. Portuguese have the tools to beat Slavs, but Slavs, especially the early siege like Onagers, Siege Rams, could be extremely hard to handle. What do you get when you fill Golden Pit with water? You will get Baltic with gold at the bottom of the water, basically. Like, in fact, Mediterranean as a map is basically Golden Pit filled with water. You just don't have the water, or don't have the gold seen, because it's below the water. So, Portuguese versus Slavs over here in Deathmatch World Cup 4 losers bracket semifinals. The loser of this set, I believe, is out. I'll have to double check. Yeah, the loser is out. The winner will face Rage in the next round, and the winner of that game will go to play in the grand finals. So, Portuguese and Slavs will both open Cavalier here and add Halberdiers to deal with the opponent's cavalry. The key thing, I think, for Portuguese is getting to bombard cannons. Because bombard cannons will be so much needed to deal with the Halberdiers. Or, well, not the Halberdiers, but the Halberdier plus Onager composition. Because the Onager is the big deal here for Slavs. Frost offered Portuguese and Slavs, and it looks like Code will select Portuguese out of these two civilizations offered to him. As we jump into game number 2, welcome to Golden Pit, which also has quite a lot of stone at it. And since I don't have my no snow mod turned on, you're going to see the ice here as well. We will have on the right side Frost9 as Slavs in red, and left side is going to be Portuguese for the code in blue. We will have only light cap for Portuguese, but a Hussar on the other side for the Slavic player. That gives a bit of an advantage, and it looks like we'll have an Arbalest play. Frost going for a super early market play. This is an insanely early market play. Basically one barracks and then one market. It looks like no villager will be lost here, and Frost wants to go market with Boyars. Interesting. The response will be Arbalests. The big problem with the Boyar play over here is that it's going to take quite a lot of time until you get these castles up. That's always the problem when it comes to any kind of unique unit play that's not Sicilians in that match. It takes so much time to get your castles up that your opponent will just flood you with army while you're doing that. So, indeed, this is a super ambitious effort from Frost9. This is a massive gamble as well. If Code just went for free stable Cavalier, he would be dead by now, I believe. Because he barely has anything. You see that he's got 8 army as opposed to 22. We're gonna have the castles up though, and that gives a nice little edge here now for Frost, because he's gonna have an easy time protecting his base. And here come the Boyar. So how do you beat Boyar here? Because Boyar are definitely sturdier against Halberdiers than other cavalry would be. Boyar Onager or Boyar Siege Ram is going to be a tough one for the Portuguese to crack. We're going to have castles up, and Code drops a castle in the middle, or they starts dropping towers as well to secure that position. And the first villager casualty of the game will be on the side of Code. Nice snipe over there from Frost. He's going to see that he's up against Arbalest, but I think he's going to be happy to see Arbs, because either Siege Rams or Onagers will work nicely here. Arbalest Bombard Cannon is the name of the game for the Code, as he's finishing off the first tower in the middle as well. Other side, we'll have Arbalests as well, and monasteries, double monasteries in fact from both sides, in an effort to secure some relics for themselves. Another castle comes in here, the edge of the pit. That's a nice staging ground for this one, and it looks like Frost actually just wants to mass his Boyars, which is I think the right thing to do, because you need quite a lot of time in order to get to good Boyar numbers. So you see that the numbers are way weaker for Frost. In exchange, the quality of his units are far better than the opponent's units. So that's something to point out. We will have more barracks being added by Frost, as he's adding TCs as well. So once he gets to Boyars, Siege Rams, and Onagers, this is going to be a tough one for Code to stop. But you also have to keep in mind that Code once again secures the middle early on, and He will just be trying to defend this one as much as possible. Against the infantry, he's preparing for organ guns. And he also is making quite a lot of onagers. So he knows that the rams will be coming. Bombard cannon, onager... And then potentially a couple of organ guns could help quite a bit. Because while organ guns are not actually meant to counter cavalry, their firepower is pretty considerable. So if you have a meat shield in front of them, it's very possible to kill boyars fairly easily. Now we have a detachment of boyars being sent towards the base of Code. Code might not actually get that TC up here if it is only depending on the boyars, but it looks like the boyars will not actually fight this one. I'm not sure if you really want to dive deep in here with these boyars, because I think that the halberdiers will still just grind them down over time, but you might be able to find one or two vills here. That's going to be just the third villager casualty of the game, or the boyars will just leave them out. But this might just be a diversion, honestly. This may have just been a complete diversion, because you see that Code was chasing with quite a lot of army, and I am fairly certain that this wasn't the primary intention of Frost. There is no way that Frost just sent those in to run around. Probably sent them in to run around and distract his opponent, and while that is happening, a big death blob of Slavs starts rolling. Siege rams finishing off the castles, the onagers are still standing and they're taking some nice shots. Boyars trying their best to get close, and they're slowly grinding down the meat shield in front. The castle still stands under fire by traps, but the onager numbers have more or less been preserved by our blue player. So, and this very moment, I think that this wasn't super efficient for Frost, but it looked amazing as he unleashed the Boyar Siege Ram Siege Onager combination in this one. Still, Portuguese bombard cannons will be so good at dealing with these onagers. Even general bombard cannons would be great, but Portuguese bombard cannons are absolute beauty. So the castle is down, which is a nice situation, at least here for Frost, especially now that he grinds down a huge amount of those halberdiers with the onagers. Also, opponent's onager numbers getting dwindled by the fact that our red player is having some SOs here, and these boyars are still doing some work. So Code's eco is slightly weaker than the one from his opponent. Code does have a foothold in the middle, whereas Frost, he's just having mining camps, but he is doing so in a very, very aggressive manner. So he's just mining gold in the middle right now without any further protection, which feels dangerous given the fact that his army numbers are not so convincing. In fact, he's at 30 army right now. And now, this could be troublesome for the Slavic player because the boyar numbers are out. Gold is officially out for our red player, despite the fact that he was the one going for the market strategy. Other side, Code still has 3,000 gold bank and, more importantly, 6,000 food, compared to Frost, who only has 2k food bank and only 4 on food. And Slavic farmers are good, but they're not that good to compensate for that. He's just now establishing farming eco for himself, but I feel like these villagers are so defenseless over here. And as you see, the blue player already starts moving in and starts killing. Like, actual killing. We're gonna have... oh yeah, this looks really rough now for Frost, I'm not gonna lie. I was trying to look positively to this one and say, okay, he's gonna have reinforcements arriving, but I don't see the reinforcements. And Frost is losing all of his vills and every single bit of control that he had over the middle. And Code knows that his opponent is gonna be probably trying to raid him, so he's trying to go for fortified walls. This is the shot here for Frost. He's got a lot of boyars and champions coming in. Both of those are going to be capable of beating these halberdiers, but the problem is that we will just have the same exact scenario as the previous game. Code will secure the middle and just wait until Frost runs out of gold. That's the main concern. Boyars now diving in to take that TC down. Champions can do the exact same thing with Arson, as now onagers, some halberdiers, and more importantly, organ guns will be sent here to clean up the champions. There's some nice onager shots in here, so the champions got absolutely annihilated. And now you can just chase down those boyars with the halberdiers. The right side is still open, so technically reinforcements can come in here for Frost, but the gold efficiency of these fights are awful for him. He's still losing all the boyar, and after everything, he still doesn't have any gold control from the middle. He's on a serious timer. So he wants to land another attack now with Siege Rams and Boyars. He's trying to do the exact same thing that he tried to do in the previous game, in late game. Just try to attack from the flanks and ignore the middle. But unless he's able to do insane damage with that, it's just not gonna be possible. And I feel like Code has enough resource bank to compensate for these pushes on the sides. Because even though your food eco is massive for Code and you're also losing some wood control, the problem for you here is that there is just so much resources on the bank still for Code that Frost is going to lose his army once again, and he still won't be able to finish off our blue player. So, as things stand, if Code is not contesting the middle, then, or if Frost is not contesting the middle, then suddenly this is going to be a very, very, very one-sided thing, I would say. So now here comes the next wave of Boyars, but you see that these numbers aren't really satisfying for our red player. He's got a couple of Siege Onagers, and speaking of Siege Onagers, he can land some nice shots, but after all, he's still going to lose most of his Boyars here, so I don't think that this can do enough damage to the base of Code, or at least not sufficient to compensate for the fact that he still doesn't have gold. Now Frost is officially out of gold, he's trying to Onager cut through the walls of his opponent. This might just be a distraction though. That's the best shot for Frost. If he is able to divert some forces away from the middle for Code, he might be able to secure a foothold. He's out of gold, so it's now or never. Let's see, the towers are slowly going down, but I just feel like Frost will never crack this line of defense, and his army is not gonna do that much damage to compensate for the fact that he doesn't have gold. Like, he's going to kill a couple of villas and Code is down to 87. But Code still has a huge resource bank. So we're gonna have Organ Guns Onagers pushing up the left side. And I mean, Frost is trying his best. I just feel like this game is going absolutely nowhere for him. Because that's basically the case. He's unable to secure the middle, and without gold, the quality of his units will be way worse. If the player that... I'm not going to say name because that's a bit of a spoiler to other series, and I want this to be spoiler-free for YouTube. But if a player gets into the grand finals unbeaten so far, is there going to be a rematch because he hasn't won a single, or hasn't lost a set? Nope. The grand finals is single elimination, so to say. Is this live? It is. So, the games are live. The chances of Frost, not so much, because as things stand, he's still very, very far from securing any kind of foothold, especially against Portuguese bombard cannons. This is gonna be insanely hard. So we will have some onagers coming out here for Frost, trying to take down the Organ Guns, but at this point it's 20 on gold for Code. He's just stacking up on gold, and what's even more brutal about this map compared to the Golden Swamp map is that this also has stone in the middle. So it's not only Code sitting on infinite gold, basically, he's also sitting on infinite stone, which means that he can just rebuild these towers forever. Like, Frost should never be able to break through this defense and eventually just die to the fact that he doesn't have gold units, because even though Slavs are amazing when it comes to their non-gold units, they have the Havadiers with Druzhina, they have Hussar, they do have champions that are like a low gold cost unit, so it doesn't cost a huge amount. You might be able to afford champions if you start selling resources and you have 2 relics, but in general, you will never win a game when you don't have any gold. Nice onager shot here though from Frost, but I feel like these are just moments where he's taking a good fight, but it won't compensate for this. And now the bombard cannons are firing up hills, and like slowly those castles will also go down. I just feel like he will soon have his base pushed here. He's at 24 army right now. Most of it is just champion, halberdier, light cavalry. It's a very underwhelming unit composition that's going to have a limited impact on the game, whereas Code is now 77 army and he could squeeze in a lot more. I think he could even do Cavalier and just raid the opponent's eco here, because Code knows exactly that the entire eco for Frost is food and wood eco. So 20 Cavalier would absolutely annihilate the eco of Frost. And so far, 2 out of 0 is Frost securing the middle. And this is why I was a little bit skeptical about him selecting this home map. Because this was a dangerous thing for him. He saw how well Code played the map control game in a previous one, yet he still decided to bring Code to this map, and now he's down 2 games in a best of 7. And game number 3 is Code's home map and not Frost's one. So Code could easily pull ahead by 3 games here. That's looking really rough for Frost. So, as things stand, we will have 2 games down, and the only number to look at in this one is this. Which actually, I'm surprised that Frost had the same amount of gold gathered as Code. That feels so awkward. Did Code still have gold back at home? How is this even a thing? Something is off with this one. Oh, maybe, yeah, the market. I'm right. I'm actually right about this one. The reason why you see the gold count being the same is because Frost was using a huge amount of market. So he actually started the market strategy anyways, which gives him a couple of thousand gold and by default. And even after he lost control over the middle, he was selling resources. So that's why the gold count is actually even. But reality is that if you look at the overall eco, it was better, but he was just not in a position to push the middle. And most of that overall eco comes from food. That 17,000 difference between the 2 players is mostly just food. So, with that, we are going to get to the home map of the Code, who really wants to get back into the Grand Finals, because Deathmatch World Cup 3, he got 4-0'd by the Viper in the Grand Finals. He probably wants to have a revenge, as it seems like we're going to Arabia as Code's home map. Frost is going to be playing Goths, and it looks like Portuguese might be the Civ for Code. So Portuguese versus Goths, how do we feel about that? I think that should be Goth excited. Technically, Portuguese are an excellent gunpowder Civ, but I have serious concerns about Portuguese having the ability to match up against the infinite flood of infantry at the beginning. Nope, it's actually Huns versus Goths. So we're going to see the good old-fashioned Huns versus Goths setup over here. And I think Frost chose the right civilization. And so far, in every single Huns versus Goths game, we have seen Goths prevail. Every single one of them. Huns technically have the answers, but reality is that Goths' infantry flood is just insanely hard to handle. So this is the first map where I'm going to say that we're going to have a civ advantage for Frost here. And this is a civ advantage that he must use. This should be favoring him, like this matchup seems to be favoring him quite heavily. He has to win this one. He can't afford to go down in this game and have a 3-0 scoreline for Code, especially when he has the civ advantage here. Exactly, the Huns can answer the infantry, but not the flood. That's a perfect summary of the situation. They can have their answers to Huskars and Halberdiers respectively. However, they just struggle to keep up with just the overwhelming numbers of enemies running into their base, especially because you have to control those cav archers really heavily as well. So if you just look away for a second and your cav archers get slaughtered by halberdiers, it's over. The other thing is that gold efficiency is a problem for Huns, because no matter how hard they try, they will always have to take some fights where they will be fighting with Paladins against Halberdiers. And the reason why Gods are scary is because they just grind down your gold bank so easily. I think that in this case, Code has to go for a market strategy, because against Gods, you need every single bit of gold, and even then, it's going to be really tough to fight. With that, we go into the home map of Code Arabia, Huns versus Goths. So let's jump into Capture Rage, and we should be good to go. So welcome to Arabia. This is going to be game number 3 in a best of 7 between Code and Frost. Code is going to be playing as Huns on the left side in blue. Right side will be Frost 9 as Goths in red, opening up with a single Halberdier to counter the Hussar that is coming his way, and then we'll start adding Huskars in an effort to try and prevent his opponent from building up his base. Paladins are coming in for Code here, as you would expect. If you're playing Huns, as we are having the market strategy as expected for Code here. So, oh, the market getting delayed. The market gets delayed, and that's huge. This is huge, because even though Frost himself is not going for a market strategy, that could matter quite a bit when it comes to just surviving against this flood, especially if this gets further delayed. It looks like it was finished to a condition where it doesn't matter that it got delayed, because he still gets the advantage when it comes to selling it. If Frost actually went for a market strategy himself, he would have had a nice advantage from this. So Code sends for the couple of Paladins to try and find some will kills, but he's mostly just defending, and he's trying to just grind down those Paladin numbers. And those Paladin numbers are actually growing very nicely, and currently he's just slaughtering all the infantry that comes forward. It currently seems like we have a 1-1 eco KD for both players, so as if nothing happened, the two players will continue their expansion. Interesting to see that we are seeing free castles coming up early from Frost, because that's not something that Gods need immediately, and you gotta wonder if you prioritize houses or barracks instead of that, because you see that Frost is getting housed. This is a serious mistake from Frost. This is a massive mistake, because the Gods live and die with their flood. And I feel like this is more of a trickle compared to a flood. It's still scary, but I'm not sure if those castles are that much needed early on. It's going to be a nice defensive thing, as Code finds another villager to kill, make it 2, make it 3. But I just feel like this flood wasn't really proactive, and oh my goodness, now Frost's eco is collapsing. Losing 4 wills in quick succession means that he's going to be delayed really badly expanding his eco, and that is a great sign for Code, finds another will kill. And the thing is that this is a big flood of infantry, but it's absolutely not doing anything, whereas Code is just a lot more active, and if he finds a couple of wills here, I feel like Frost will just not have the tools to expand his eco. Nice move to garrison the wills from the town center, but that still should be 1 dead will. 7 wills killed to 1. That's not something that you can easily overcome in that match. You still gotta be careful though if you're Code, because as I said, Cav Archers technically counter Halberdiers, but only if you can control them. And you gotta be real careful not to throw away your army, because once the Gothic Death Blob starts moving, that's gonna be crazy. So, we're gonna have the Hobbs pushing up free trebs, coming in here to try and take down those cardboard castles. The castle actually gets stopped over here. This is big, because this castle being stopped means that this infantry can push up even more and almost guarantee a kill on that castle. The forces here for Code are still big, and Frost is 9 to 7 wills. 7 wills is just so underwhelming. Make it 6. I don't think that you can live in that match with 6 wills. The problem is that you will not have any eco expansion, and you will run out of food. Especially with gods that are so food heavy, it very much seems like the fact that Code is able to control the expansion of Frost here could actually be the deciding factor, because you see that Frost is still housed, he's basically full army. he just doesn't have villas to make houses, for example. And at this point, Code can actually commit to a fight like this, knowing that his opponent is gonna have no economy to replenish this army. And in comparison, Code has 33 on gold. This is still a bit of an ambitious fight here for Code, and you see that his numbers are also dropping really badly, but he's still at 106 military against 70, and I feel like the next wave is the one that Frost is gonna have hard time to deal with. This could be the first game that Gots win or lose against Huns. Every single game so far in the tournament that was Gots versus Huns, Gots won it. This could be the first game that goes otherwise. So, right now, mobility advantage is also on the side of the Hunnic player here. 107 population still for Frost, but this is what I was referring to. That food count is insufficient, and that's the tricky thing with Gots, that most civs run out of gold first. Huns actually run out of food first. I mean Gots. I'm also getting tired, sorry for that. So, Gots run out of food first, basically, because their army is so food heavy, as that castle goes up just in time. So, Gods need to establish a food eco pretty early on, because you see that this is a scary wave of army. This is 155 army, but look at Frost. Frost actually has to buy food here, which is a very alarming sign. That's super alarming in that match when you have to mass buy food. Now, that may still be able to do it for him though, because the thing is that Code's army might not be enough to hold off 150 Gothic infantry, especially when a significant portion of the Code's eco is exposed to this one, like the stone miners. This gold mine could be lost. This kind of has to be an all-in push here from Frost. But I think he might have a small window here, because if you take a look at Code's gold income, it's steady, it's actually very steady, but it might be insufficient in case you get overrun by this many units. Still, there is... Look at... Frost has to just mass buy food, and that's just very disturbing, because this also means that Code can sell food for a pretty decent value, and get some more gold from it, in case he needs it in an emergency situation. So, we're gonna have the Trebs taking down the siege workshops. This is still a big flood of infantry, and now the Huskars start looping around. Other assigned Paladins and Cav Archers dive in, and this is a bit of a gamble here from the Code, because he wants to kill eco, but reality is that Frost doesn't really have a lot of eco, and if he can't kill anything there, he doesn't have the defenses back at home. In fact, this is a mistake from Code. This army was much needed here in the middle, and now, suddenly, Code's base is getting overrun. Code took away the whole map of Frost, but it now seems like Frost could easily take away the whole map of Code. And once again, we're just seeing Huns versus Goths may always be won by Goths. Because now this is really tough for Code. His eco is actually worse than the opponent's eco. No food income, no gold income basically. No gold income either for Frost, but he can just flood halberdiers all day, all night. As you see that when these Paladins go down, especially when the Paladins disappear, suddenly Huskars start becoming a massive factor because Cav Archers cannot stop them. And look at this play from Frost. He's taking out a TC because he knows exactly that the way that our blue player will expand his eco is by adding vills. And Goths, once again, unbeaten versus Huns. I just don't understand this. This was Code's home map selection. He gives Huns and Goths. If he saw the games from the tournament, it was fairly obvious that every single game in the tournament was won by Goths in this matchup. And it looks like Frost's gamble to buy food actually paid off. Very, very nicely done by him. It was a big gamble, but that was the only shot that he has had. He had to flood this map out here, and I feel like Code actually tried to kill eco, but there was no eco to kill. There was nothing here to kill. He came in here with Paladins and Cav Archers and he found absolutely nothing. And while he was doing that, he just got overrun in the middle pretty badly. Oh boy. But at least this makes it a very competitive set, and now we're going to the player that is currently behind in score home map. So Frost will be going for his selection, and he's the one that selects Mirror Sieve. So this is the moment where we will no longer have asymmetrical deathmatch here. We will have mirror civilizations now. And let's see if we have a game. We do. We go back to Arabia for what is going to be a Portuguese showdown. Interesting. I wouldn't have thought that Frost selects this one. I'm actually very surprised. Because Portuguese felt really good in the hands of Code in the Golden Pit game. Somewhat skeptical about Frost selecting Portuguese mirrors for this one. So in this setup, you should open Cavalier. Although I was wrong about that in the Golden Pit game, but usually Portuguese open Cavalier Halberdier and then start working towards something like maybe even Arbalest. Arbalest is definitely viable if you have Bombard Cannon support. If not, then you will just die to Onagers. So Arbalest, Bombard Cannon, Halberdier could also work here. How much do you have to misplay to lose as gods? Not a lot. It actually is fairly easy to misplay it. The biggest thing with gods is that you need to make the houses and barracks fast. So you have to have an insanely good start with your vills and make sure you don't lose your vills. The condition for Huns to win this, or win a Hun versus Gothic matchup in that match, I think, is sniping vills. If they can cripple the Gothic players' buildings, so kill the vills and just prevent the gods from adding houses, then the Gothic player won't be able to flood the units, and you can snowball the game with Huns. Because Huns produce units pretty fast, so you can snowball games really fast once you get to the stage. But for that, you need to prevent the initial flood of infantry. Here we go, so we are going to game number 4. We will have the home map of Frost over here. This is a Portuguese mirror. Frost is red on the north, and Code is blue on the south. As that light cap is actually going to cause quite a lot of delay on those stables. One stable is up for the Code here, but Frost actually yields one villager kill from that light cap. That was the first villager kill of the game, and now a Halberdier is chasing this blue scout, so I don't think this will do that much. So, now we will bring in some castles, interestingly, from Frost. So we might see quite a lot of Organgans early on as a response to what could be champions, what could be Halberdiers coming from the blue player. Nice castle spot for Code. Code is actually expanding very aggressively. This is something I've been spotting for the majority of the games that he has been playing. He is super aggressive with his expansion. He's just dropping castles on those hills early on, and he isn't afraid to send out a Vil. This is risky because he could lose this, but he isn't afraid to do that, and this way he secures quite a lot of map control. Code going for a market strategy, as we will have Arbalest being added here by Frost. So far, no more villager kills, so only one by Frost, and that is all. Obvious that helps Frost a tiny bit, but it's not that big of a difference. One Vil is something that you can survive overall. So what's the plan here for Frost? He's adding Organgans indeed. Organgans in general have great firepower, so if you have some sort of meat shield in front of them, they are a legitimate supplementary unit to deal with cavalry as well, because they pack a huge punch. Siege Workshop Wall coming in here for Frost in an effort to try and prevent those cavalry from running into his base. And it looks like Frost will secure the other hero here. The battle between these two ridges will be extremely important, because that's going to decide who controls this gold mine. And that's a gold mine that should belong to Frost. So if Frost loses this battle here, he's gonna be down by quite a bit for gold. Beautiful castle for Code here. This locks down the left side of the map, securing this neutral gold. This neutral gold and stone right now is wide open for taking by either player. KD is massive in the favor of Frost, by the way. 27 kills to right now just 6 deaths. And he also has the hill here. Cavalier trying to loop around, hit the Bombard Cannon. This could be a nice one from Code. He snipes down those expensive Bombard Cannons, and that KD advantage now completely disappears, because now Code secures the hill with champions. it looks like there weren't enough organ guns to deal with the champs, and now Arbalasts are arriving from the Code. In fact, he could stop this castle, which would be extremely important. So, left side, Code is securing some more map control. I feel like the problem for Frost right now is that he's pretty much cornered in here. He just can't expand out of his base, and Code is so good in these situations where he's just able to grab 80% map control. I would expect Code to start picking up relics in the next 1 or 2 minutes, and from that point on, he's just going to be able to sit on the relic lead, especially considering the fact that he can pressure this gold mine. It is 78 army against 55. Code has caught the start a lot better for this one, taking some fairly reasonable fights here, sniping down bombard cannons. His momentum seems to be disappearing here a tiny bit, but the next wave of infantry and cavalry is already on the way. Bombard cannons dancing a little bit as the castle for our red player goes up, but probably will go down rather rapidly against 2 traps and what is basically 5 bombard cannons. Frost is switching more and more to Arbalast, but it looks like Cavalier, Arb and Bombard Cannon especially should be sufficient for Code to play this one. Code still has a good gold bank versus his opponent has basically no gold. Frost trying to work with the low market prices to get some more gold for himself, but obviously the efficiency is going to be much worse than it was for the Code. This is looking really good for our blue player, not necessarily because he's destroying his opponent right now, because I think Frost can hold this one. It's more about the fact that Code is securing majority map control. He's at 1 relic right now, and he has this hill which allows him to just pressure this gold mine. That's the most important thing. So, we are gonna have one of the bombard cannons being sniped down here. That's going to be a bit of a sloppiness from our blue player, but the second castle is also under heavy fire, and this many bombard cannons for the Code can just absolutely annihilate the opponent's units. In fact, look at all those bombard cannons going down from Frost. That is just huge, and this is why I mentioned at the beginning of the game that I'm not sure if he want to fight Portuguese war against Code, because he seemed fairly confident with his bombard cannon control in the Golden Pit game, and I may have been right about that one, because to me Code is a bit more convincing with the bombard cannon micro. As 25 population lead and the castle going down the right side will just put further nails in the coffin of Frost for this one, which could eventually result in Frost being pushed into a match point. Code just feels so good today. And this is the Code that actually got 4-0'd in, I think, the second round of the winner's bracket. So he actually got to loser's bracket quite early on, which was a surprise to many. So it seems like he has redeemed himself very, very nicely. Those are 2 pure deathmatch players. Yes, that's absolutely correct. That both Frost and Code are basically exclusively deathmatch players. Code actually plays some random map games. I have seen him play random map. He's, I think, around 1700 levels, so obviously his skills partially translate into random map games. But the big problem that he's lacking is that he doesn't have good build orders for random map because he's a deathmatch player. Frost only plays deathmatch. He doesn't even have a 1v1 random map rating. He's the highest rated deathmatch player, but he doesn't have a 1v1 random map rating. Now, speaking of Frost though, as I said, I feel like Code won't be able to finish off his opponent over here because I don't think that he's got momentum for it. It's more about the fact that he wants to control this gold mine and just starve his opponent out of gold, as he tried to tower rush the other gold mine. So the towers being placed over here clearly tells us that Code was just playing for gold control. And he's doing that very nicely. This gold is not available right now to Frost, and Code is taking this gold mine. So, as things stand, the gold control game is working out nicely. For our blue player, populations getting closer to each other, but with 3 relics for Code, only 2 for Frost, and as I said, the fact that our blue player is controlling the majority of the map and sending some villagers into their death means that if Frost isn't able to break out of this in the next couple of minutes, then I don't even need to finish my sentence, because, well, Frost is able to resign here, and with that, Code pushes this to match point. I was thinking how Sicilians counter Goths in DM. Uh, Sicilians might be able to. I think the problem with Sicilians is speed. I think the biggest problem in a Sicilian versus God war, to answer that question, is that you won't be able to catch those Huskars killing your villagers. That's my main problem. They should be able to defeat them if they take the initiative and if they force the gods to defend, because you have the faster building castles, you can secure map control easily. You have the faster building TCs, you can get first crusade fast. Sergeants annihilate the Gothic champions and the halberdiers as well. Gods technically have scorpions and bombard cannons though. So I don't think that Sicilians necessarily dominate gods. They should have the tools to beat it. But yeah, I feel like it's a question of mobility, it's a question of how much siege you have on the field. That's the most important factor. But yeah, Sicilians definitely have answers to gods. But in this game, Frost didn't have answer to the Portuguese play of code, and now this is where it really starts to become problematic for our red player, because this was the home map of Frost, and now we're going to the home map of code, and it very much seems like that could be Arabia again. And I feel like, as I said, in the game that Frost won, he had a massive civ advantage. We will see if he gets another civ advantage like that from the code. Civilizations have not been selected yet, but we will progress forward with the next game in a matter of moments. Tomorrow I will also be casting Deathmatch World Cup starting at 14 GMT. That will be the losers bracket finals, and then the winner, or well, the losers bracket finals has a winner, and that goes into the grand finals to fight against the only unbeaten player in the entire tournament. So let's see if we have the game up. Nope, not yet. They're still in Arabia, and Code still has Portuguese selected as his civ in the lobby, so there is a distinct chance that they just haven't selected civs. So if you're the Code, I feel like he should feel confident on Arabia. So I would think it's gonna be mirror civ anyways. I would think that for Code, fast-paced civilizations like Franks, for example, would actually fit very nicely to his style against Frost. Hans Mirror could be interesting. Maybe Lithuanians. Lithuanians could be a very sneaky civilization for Code because he's so good at establishing map control that Lithuanians would be a really strong civilization in his hands, I believe. And we're going to Arabia Hans Mirror, so I was partially right. He wants to play an aggressive, fast-paced gameplay because he seems to be faster than his opponent. Arabia Hans Mirror, basically the benchmark, so to say, for deathmatch, the most commonly played deathmatch setting overall. Arabia Huns and Franks mirrors are just the traditional way of playing deathmatch. We will see paladins, cav archers, siege rams, halberdiers, and the real question is going to be who can snipe more vills at the beginning with paladin and cav archers, and then follow it up with the establishing of the map control, and then just keeping those castles alive with their units against the opponent's siege ram pushes. So if Frost loses here, he's going to exit the tournament as a losers bracket semi-finalist, which is still, as I said, a massive improvement for him compared to his performance in Deathmatch World Cup 3. In that case, he wasn't able to qualify, although he lost against a very, very strong True. But still, there is no shame losing here in the final, basically final four, because he's in the semifinals, technically. So there is no shame losing here, but obviously he wants to proceed on, and the hope is still alive. So he's gonna have to play his best game here to have any shot against the Code, especially with these settings. And I think the big problem for Frost is that he already lost 2 of his home maps. But who knows? The only game he won was on the home map of the Code, so maybe he's gonna benefit from the fact that his opponent is selecting a home map. So, we are gonna have game number 5 coming in here. Someone just gifted me a sub on the ESOC channel. Yeah, I know. I saw that. I wasn't able to, go to the ESOC channel and say thank you just yet because I'm streaming myself and it looks like Capturage may have just completely died on me. So, that might be a Capturage restart. Nope, we're all good. We're all good. But, yeah, gifted subs, you don't need to be on a certain channel to get a sub gifted. You just need to be a frequent viewer. So, I usually lurk on the AoE free streams. That's the place for AoE free esports. That's why. Probably I was the one that the random got selected. But let's go back to the Hans Arabia mirror over here. Code will be playing blue on the right side, going for a market strategy. But this might be a fake market. Nope, it's not a fake market. It stood up for so long and he wasn't selling any resources. I was thinking that he might be just faking a market strategy here. And the Tarkin's opening for Frost. This is something that's rarely seen in Deathmatch. The reason why Tarkin's opening can be good is because they train slightly faster than Paladins. The drawback of this one currently for Frost though is that he lost 2 villagers to the Paladins, yet he was unable to secure a single will kill on the opponent up until now. Retaliates with 1 villager kill, but he's down by 4 now. Awful start for our red player, and a very, very good start for our blue player here. So 4-1 villager KD, especially in a Hun mirror, can snowball really fast when you have a market strategy going for the player that has the villager kill advantage. So 2 TCs coming in here for our blue player. And now we're gonna have some siege workshops as well. Still, 4 kills, 2 deaths in the eco for Code. That's something that he has to be satisfied with. Although, crisis averted, because the thing is that at least Frost isn't getting overrun. Now, his gold here is awful. This gold can be directly contested from this hill, and this ridge overall in the middle of the map will be extremely important. You see that the Code is already pushing up here to that hill. Army numbers slightly favoring the Code here, so is army value. Halberdiers are in the party for both players. Cav Archer numbers are way better though for our blue player. Quality numbers better for our red player though, and this might be enough, especially with the hill advantage here for Frost to hold. Cav Archers firing down hills here is going to be extremely impactful. And this is a good fight. It's actually a very, very good fight here for Frost. With the power of the hill, he's going to be able to push back his opponent, and those villagers going down here is going to be important for Code, because not only his castle is getting denied here, but the villager numbers will equalize as well. Nice fight here. I'm not sure why Code wanted to commit to this one. Maybe he feels like he can actually temporarily win this and get a castle up that allows him to secure this ridge. So he probably knows that this was inefficient, but he was probably hoping that he can edge out at least an even fight and force his opponent to retreat. But that's not really the case. Still, Code now has 63 Cav Archers as opposed to 38, and that's the moment where suddenly the Cav Archer numbers for Frost isn't going to crack it, and look at the gold count for Frost. He's out of gold, siege rams are in, and that will soak up a lot of Cav Archer fire. The problem is, for Frost right now, that he's also facing siege ram, and his opponent, even though he's out of gold as well, he has double the Cav Archer numbers. It looks like Code will now take the hill, take the decisive fight here. Beautiful fight here for the Code, and I don't think that this is gonna be sufficient for Frost. This Cav Archer numbers are still slightly better, and now the Rams are pushing up, and when the Rams start pushing up, those Cav Archers will start focusing the Rams. Code once again is going to overrun his opponent. What a play by him. I mean, he's just so good at evaluating when he wants to fight and when he doesn't want to fight. And now that castle can be secured, and that's the primary goal from our red player. So from this moment on, our blue player, Code, can actually apply pressure on the gold mine of his opponent. And even just the TC being taken down like that is going to be so annoying for Frost. And the TC is actually going down just in time. 78 Cav Archers still for Code. He's going to use a small group of them to loop around and try to hit the back of the opponent's eco. We have some Paladins denying castles on the right side. Or Frost is just going to run past that will because he's too busy not dying. But 144 army against 56. In a Hunnic Mirror, losing villagers is even more so amplified than in normal cases, because you really need production at the beginning. So otherwise you could get overrun really easily with Cav Archers and Paladins. And I feel like those early vills being lost is still something that sort of haunts our red player Frost here. This raid is actually pretty nice from Frost. He picks off quite a lot of vills, but now Code has 40 vills compared to 26, and I once again feel like we're just seeing the exact same scenario as before. One player getting cornered within his own base, and this hill is just so good for Code to hold. These Paladins are really doing work here, by the way, so Frost has actually evened out the villager KD. And now it's going to be a Hunnic Trap War. And Hunnic Trap War actually have, you know, that small gimmick that Hunnic Traps are more accurate, so it's actually slightly easier to defend, I would say, because you want to snipe traps when you're defending. Frost also going for quite a lot of stone being sold. And the thing is that if these two castles go down, there is going to be no gold income for Frost. This is the most disturbing sight for him. How is he going to take this gold mine? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't think he will. And without that gold mine, this game is just going to spiral out of control. Code is playing the map control game so well. I wouldn't be surprised to see a castle on this rage, because he already has some, like one in the middle. Now secures the top of the ridge here. Frost is at 1 relic, his opponent is at 0. The castle is under fire by only 1 trap, but that trap has hill advantage. And now I see a couple of siege rams moving in that will just get destroyed by the halberdiers. Code coming in with some more traps as his Cav Archers got cleaned up on the north. 33 Cav Archers for Frost, 61 for our blue player, and the biggest thing, hill advantage. Hill advantage with the ability to fire downhills on those castles or traps and contest that gold mine is enormous right now for the Code. And he's also controlling both of the neutral gold mines. So once again, I feel like it's a little bit of a just a matter of time situation for Code here, because his map presence is a lot better than his opponent's. He just took one very good fight, and that allows him to control the majority of the map. This ridge is just so good. And now it looks like we will have Frost trying to dive in, snipe the traps, but that's 5 traps being set up. There is no way Frost keeps this castle alive, which raises the question of what to do next for him. But I just feel like I see a little chance for Frost turning this one back, especially because now you see that Frost is almost exclusively Cav Archers. Code is going to start mixing in Tarkans, because Tarkans are a little bit more resistant to arrow fire than Paladins are. So it makes some sense to mix in Tarkans over here. Plus Tarkans also deal extra damage against buildings, so if you just let them sit in the middle of your base, they will slowly take down your buildings as well. Traps being set up. I think they're actually targeting this TC. Nope. What are they targeting? They're targeting this trap, interestingly. A bit of an overextension maybe from Code here. He might be losing one of his traps, but still he's got reinforcements, and now this castle is gonna be under fire. If that castle falls, there's gonna be this gold mine lost for Frost. And now the Tarkans dive in. Bit of a sloppy fight here for Code, because he actually allowed those Tarkans to run into the halberdiers. But now he drags away the halberdiers, and he's gonna have some nice fights. Why did he make the 3 stone walls? Because he built a TC here, and he actually wanted to make sure that villager doesn't get killed, so he made some stone wall foundations around it. But he wasn't paying attention, the villager also finished building those walls. Sometimes happens. When you see random walls like that, those were usually quick walls. Or at least quick walls that were somehow finished. 42 Cav Archers against 56. There is still a small chance for Frost. He's trying to raid his way back into the game, but he is down by 2 relics, and I think in all certainty, that's going to be 3, probably 4 relics at minimum. There's a chance he's gonna be fighting against 5 relics, and I did mention this before. I think the most important thing when it comes to Code is how well he's able to establish map presence. Because he's actually playing aggressive, but after that he can really use the map to his advantage. Secure the relics, secure the neutral gold mines, and I feel like this might be the last push here for Frost. Trying to take down those traps. He already lost 3 of his castles. Now the traps are even shooting at the cav archers, and the Tarkans will just soak up all arrow fire. There is no halberdiers in front. Where are the halberdiers at? Oh, the halberdiers are so mispositioned. So the Tarkans are just here to soak up the arrow fire. Avenji, thank you so much for the resub. I appreciate that. Welcome back. So Rams now in the party for both players, but the numbers seem to be way better for Code. 98 versus 80 military right now. So as things stand, those Tarkans will just start rampaging the eco of Frost. And I feel like Frost is trying his best to get some sort of counter damage done. But I just feel like there's not something that is legitimate right now, because he just don't have the tools to hold this one. Although we saw that the game can actually snowball really fast in the favor of Frost in the Gothic game, so the cav numbers are not that bad for Frost. There may be a very, very, very small chance of winning this one, but that's like probably less than 10% at best. So we are gonna have the castle going down over here, most likely. This isn't even going up, to be honest. And the next step that Code will do is send villagers forward to take this gold. I know he's gonna do it. Indeed, here's the mining camp. Because he knows exactly that it's one thing that he denies that gold mine right now. He might as well take away as much gold as he can from it. 2 versus 1 is the relic count, but Code should have no trouble going up to 4 or so. And I feel like it's a matter of when, not a matter of who. Code could be getting into the losers bracket finals to keep his hope alive at getting back to the grand finals of Deathmatch World Cup. After, as I said, a massive upset, he actually lost 4-0 to Brew in the early rounds of the winners bracket, and I myself haven't seen that series, but many people said it was a very, very one-sided series, so we don't know what happened to Code there, but this set so far has been extremely clean from him, and you see why he's a so powerful player to beat. He's just doing the exact same thing in every game, but he's doing it so well. The fact that he's able to play aggressive and then establish map control and then use that map control to his advantage is just so nice. And now, yeah, I feel like this final push is going to be devastating. The castles go down, the TCs go down, and the Tarkans are actually here to absorb arrow fire. Frost is forced to make Hussar. I'm not sure if this is going to be super efficient for the Code, but it's going to be something that is enough. This is one of those fights where it doesn't have to be amazing, it just has to steamroll half of the opponent's base. The eco is still better for Frost, but he's got very, very limited gold income, and he's just losing castle after castle. And the siege gems are just rampaging the eco of Frost here. I just don't know how he would have any shot at winning this game. And indeed, he also doesn't know that. And the Code, very convincing. Extremely convincing game number 5 over here as well. Alongside the super convincing set, Code moves into the losers bracket finals, and the winner of that will play in the grand finals against the only unbeaten player in the tournament. Code defeating the sort of surprise player of the tournament, because Frost is still the highest rated deathmatch player on the ladder, but as I said, he didn't really have the chance to play in Deathmatch World Cup 3, so it was hard to evaluate where he is at when it comes to consistently playing against high-level deathmatch players. He has had a very, very nice tournament still, so ending as a top 4 is nothing to be ashamed of, but I think Code has shown why he's considered one of the best deathmatch players out there. Whenever there's a deathmatch tournament, Code's name is always on the list of players that could be there at the end in the finals, and this tournament is getting in that direction as well. Code, after that somewhat disappointing winner's bracket run that he has had, he get pushed down to the loser's bracket, and now he is showing that he's got way more in the tank than it initially seemed. And with that, he goes into the loser's bracket finals.